Next up, we have Chuck Fedengian from USGS to talk about the status and trends of crayfish in Lake Michigan, covering both the bottom trawl surveys and the acoustic survey and midwater trawls that they've done for the past many years.
No.
Just the
Okay. Well, thanks, Dan. Thank you all for inviting me to give an explanation or an update on the status of crayfish in Lake Michigan. This is a multi-agency effort involving not just the USGS Great Lakes Science Center, but also Michigan DNR, the Little Traverse Bay bands of Odawa Indians, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So the outline for today's talk is just give a little bit of background on Lake Michigan, mainly the timeline of events in the last 50 or so years. One slide on methodology, then the bottom trawl results, followed by the acoustic survey results, and then conclusions. So going through the timeline, just to bring everybody up to speed on what's happened in the lake, and it certainly has been a lot. And these help interpret the time series that we see for the crayfish. The lampreys invaded the lake during the 1930s, and then the first alewives were seen in the late 1940s. Sea lamprey control began in the late 1950s. The stocking program for salmon and trout, the major stocking program, began in 1965, and the alewives showed their peak abundance in the lake in 1966. Those events are somewhat related, as we'll see. The control on phosphorus loading didn't become effective until '81. So phosphorus is the limiting nutrient for primary production, and the controls on phosphorus didn't become effective until '81. BKD outbreak, bacterial kidney disease, in the Chinook salmon population erupted in '86, and that disease persisted in the population for around 10 to 15 years. Then the spiny water flea, Bythotrephes, invaded sometime in the mid-1980s. Zebra mussels became established in the lake in 1993. Round gobies invaded the lake in the mid-1990s, and the quagga mussels, another invader, became established in the lake in 2004. So when we look at preyfish, we need to consider two types of effects. Top-down effects, which are from the predators, so this is just the effect of the predators on the preyfish, predators like salmon and trout. And then we also have to consider effects coming from the bottom of the food web. These are the bottom-up effects, and they involve some sort of, or imply some sort of nutrient limitation on the preyfish. So if we look at a food web for Lake Michigan, at the bottom of the food web are the phytoplankton that Dan just showed in that one slide. So these are the primary producers. These are the microalgae or algae that use carbon dioxide and sunlight to manufacture organic carbon. And this is the primary production, or the base of the food web. Next level up, we see zooplankton and benthic macroinvertebrates. And then the next layer up there will be the preyfish. These are the alewives, rainbow smelt, bloater, chubs, the slimy sculpins and round gobies. And then on the top of the food web, we have the predators, the salmon and trout, and others like burbot. So the preyfish are important both ecologically and economically. There is a bit of a commercial fishery on bloater chubs and smelt, but they also are important ecologically. We know salmon, Chinook salmon, are heavily reliant on alewives Lake trout eat some alewives, but also will eat other prey fish. And there are quite a few species of fish, predatory fish using round goby nowadays. Ecologically, again, the prey fish are a conduit between the invertebrates and the top predators, and they can also influence zooplankton community structure. So if we look at a slide on the methodology, the left is the map for the bottom trawls that are done on the left side, and then on the right side we see the transects that are done during the acoustic survey. Acoustics is done at night, bottom trawling is done during the day. In the bottom trawl, the net is lowered, towed on contour, that is at the same depth over the bottom. After 10 minutes, the net is lifted up and the catch is sorted, lengths and weights are taken. We take aging structures on the alewives, the otoliths for alewives and bloaters. In the acoustic survey, midwater trawls are done to help identify or portion out the signals that are brought back to the species level. So the midwater trawls and the acoustics are done to help identify or allocate the signals that are done to separate out by species. So starting right with the bottom trawl survey, here's the time series for the age 1 and older alewives. The y-axis is kilograms per hectare, and the x-axis is year. And the pattern is quite clear and corresponds with what we know about predation. So there can be little doubt that predation is the main driver of these trends for alewife. We see the alewives declining at a rapid rate during the 70s, reaching a low level by 83 to 85, way before the mussels even get in the lake. Somewhat of a relaxation of predation beginning in 86 that can be attributed to the BKD outbreak, and they stay at that slightly higher level through the rest of the 80s, through the 90s into the 2000s, before there's a resumption or predation pressure is increased beginning in the late 90s and 2000s. A new source of wild recruitment of salmon beginning especially in the early 2000s from Lake Huron. And also BKD finally has run its course through the population. And we're right back down to where we were in 83, 85, and a continual slide to the present time. Now, we did see an increase in alewife biomass density from 0.02 kilograms per hectare in 2017 to 0.54 kilograms per hectare in 2018. The big catches of alewives in 2018 in the lake were at Sturgeon Bay, especially the 46-meter tow or 150 feet one. And there was a secondary catch at Port Washington, also at the 46-meter tow. And alewives were caught at all the ports, actually except for Saugatuck in 2018. But the biggest catches were at Port Washington and Sturgeon Bay. Looking at the alewife age distribution, we see 33% of the alewives in the catch were age 1s, and 62% were age 2. So 95% of the alewife catch were age 1 and age 2. The remaining 5% were 3s, 4s, and 5-year-olds, and nothing over age 5 was caught. And this is based on 192 alewives that were actually aged.
At what age do they start producing?
Do they start reproducing?
Yeah, what age?
I would say that, remember, this survey is done in the fall, so I would say that practically all of the fish that were age 2 were spawning as age 3. So I would say maturity in the spring, which is when they spawn, actually it's early summer, that just about 100% of the age 3s are ready to spawn. And I think that some of them are mature as age 2 is going into the spring, but 100% would be mature at age 3.
Thanks.
Sure. Now, we also keep track of an index of fatness, that is the weight of a 7-inch or 175 millimeter alewife, and that's done just by taking lengths and weights of alewives and plotting out the weight of the alewife against length and fitting a curve to those data. And we've been keeping track of a weight of a 175 millimeter alewife. You can see that it took a big drop in '95. We think that corresponds with the diapria, which is that energy-rich amphipod or scud, becoming much less important in the alewife diet beginning in '95. But you also notice that since '95, that condition or fatness has slowly been creeping up, so that in 2018, we were at almost 39.8 grams for that 175 millimeter alewife. So it's been slightly coming up over the last 20 years or so, but some of that could just be what's called a density-dependent effect, in that as the alewives become less abundant, there tends to be a slight increase in condition or fatness. Moving on to bloater, the biomass density of adult bloater increased from 2.03 kilograms per hectare in 2017 to 2.59 kilograms per hectare. So a slight increase in adult bloater in the last 2 years. The pattern we see is a peak in '89, and that big recovery in the '80s was due to many years of relatively high recruitment, and then the decline is due to very poor recruitment between 92 and 2004. Recruitment referring to the production of young ones in a given year. Since 2004, we've seen some production of young ones, especially in 2016 and 17. We're almost back up to the level that were produced in the 80s, but we still haven't seen a long, sustained increase in adult bloater biomass density. There has been an increase since 2014, but we're still waiting for a long, sustained increase like what we saw in the 80s. The big bloater catches in 2018 were at Port Washington and some at Ludington. And bloaters were caught all over the lake in 2018. Moving on to smelt, again, an increase between 2017 and 2018, going from 0.12 kilograms per hectare in 2017 to 0.27 kilograms per hectare in 2018. So the smelt have been coming up, even though they're at a low level. They have been coming up since 2015 in the lake. And the big smelt catches, the biggest one was at the 60-foot or 18-meter station at Port Washington in 2018. But smelt were caught, according to the bottom trawl, they were all over the lake. Even some decent catches at, relatively decent catches at Saugatuck. So not just limited to the northern part of the lake. Okay, deep water sculpin actually showed an increase as well between 2017 to 2018, from 0.78 kilograms up to 1.3 kilograms per hectare between 2017 and 2018. And Siamese sculpin showed a slight increase from 0.05 to 0.07. The deep water sculpins really dropped in abundance beginning in 2007, as you see from this graph. But we think that the main reason for the increase is just that a substantial portion of the population has moved to water deeper than we normally sample. Our deepest bottom trawl toes are at 110 meters or 360 feet, but in the last 5 years we've been doing supplementary toes at depths deeper than 110 meters. And you can see from this plot, well, first I want to say that the Siamese sculpins remain at a low level. We think the main driver of their abundance has been predation by juvenile lake trout. So the big skid that we see in the Siamese sculpins in the last 10 years or so, or 8 years, has been due to the increase in lake trout stocking rate, we believe, and also some natural reproduction by lake trout, especially in the southern part of the lake. But if we look at these deep water sculpin abundances, the highest abundances are occurring at these deepest toes, especially these 128 meter, and we also did a 155 and 145 meter toe in 2018, and that's where the highest concentrations of the deep water sculpins can be found. So we think that there is some support for the contention that a good chunk of the population has moved to deeper water in the last 10 to 15 years. Now, the slimy sculpins, some have said that they have been affected by round gobies, and that their round gobies may be interfering with their ability to reproduce or produce young ones. But this plot shows that that doesn't appear to be the case, where we have a recruitment index, a proportion of the pop that is small on the y-axis and year on the x, and it doesn't seem to be any pattern during the time that round gobies have come in and invaded. So it doesn't look like the round gobies have interfered with slimy sculpin reproduction in Lake Michigan. Round goby biomass density did increase between 2017 and 2018, going from just 0.15 kilograms per hectare up to 1.25 kilograms per hectare in 2018. So, but we do know that the mortality estimates that we have obtained show that the population is under quite a bit of predation pressure, or it suffers from quite high mortality. So we think that that's mainly a reflection of a lot of predation on them, and we don't expect any big increases in the goby abundance in the near future. Nine-spine sticklebacks stay at a low level, and we think that's mainly due to increased predation as the alewife buffer has narrowed. The big catches around goby in 2018 were at Waukegan, but there were also some catches at relatively high catches at Sturgeon Bay and Ludington. So if we look at all of the preyfish species, the time series for that, we do see that the total preyfish biomass in the lake increased in biomass density from 3.77 kilograms per hectare in 2017 to 6.22 kilograms per hectare. So a 65% increase from last year in total preyfish biomass. Looking at the across species, 42% of that 6.22 kilograms per hectare was bloater, then followed by 22% in deep water sculpin, 20% in round goby, 9% in alewife, 7% in rainbow smelt, 1% in slimy sculpin, and well under 1% in nine-spine stickleback. Did calculate the age did show that the biomass density according to the acoustics did show an increase from 2017 to 18, a substantial increase in the abundance or biomass density of age 1 and older alewife, so that in 2018 it was just under 5 kilograms per hectare, which is the highest biomass density of alewife according to the acoustics since 2008. Yeah, I'm sorry, the line graphs just aren't showing up, but it looks like this age distribution is showing up. The top graph is the age distribution for the bottom troll that we saw. The bottom graph is for the age distribution from the midwater trolls that were done as part of the acoustic survey. Both plots show that the oldest age is age 5, and there were 262 alewives aged from the midwater trolls from the acoustic survey, and 192 from the bottom. So for over 450 alewives, there wasn't a single alewife older than age 5, and again, the bulk of the alewives were age 1s and age 2s, with a very small percentage age 3 and older. Although it was a higher percentage for the acoustics. I think we were up to 10 or 12% that were age 3 and older in the acoustics, and only 5% in the bottom troll survey. So still an indication that the alewife population is truncated by age, and we've seen this so-called age truncation since about 2009. So this is the 10th consecutive year of this age truncation in the alewife pop. Okay, looking at the spatial distribution of the alewives from the acoustic survey, we see that in 2018, the highest biomass densities, according to the acoustics, were in the southeastern part of the lake. They've also looked at the spatial distribution of the age 0 alewives, or young of the year, by year since 2004. And we can see that from year to year, the highest densities, it varies quite a bit from year to year, the spatial distribution of the age 0 alewives. But in the last few years, there is a tendency to see the highest age 0 densities in the southeastern part of the lake. But again, you can see that in some years there were higher densities on the west side of age 0s, and in some years higher densities on the east side of the lake. But if you look at the spatial distribution of the rainbow smelt, according to the acoustic survey, the highest densities were in the north. Now in the bottom troll, we see rainbow smelt were distributed across the lake according to the bottom troll. Man, this is weird. And I don't know what's going on with these. But the small bloater, Dave didn't mark hardly any small bloaters according to the acoustic survey, and that kind of matches what the bottom troll survey. The large bloater biomass density, according to the acoustics, matched the bottom troll estimate fairly well in 2018. And here's the spatial distribution of the large bloaters, and according to the acoustics, they're all over the lake. Bottom troll shows something similar as well. Now, in 2018, some Cisco or lake heron were caught in the midwater trawls during the acoustic survey around Manistee, up in the northern part of the lake, and also Grand Traverse Bay. So this is something new for the acoustic survey. I don't think they have ever been caught before, just in 2018. And when Dave compared the density according to the acoustics, the biomass, or the number of fish per hectare according to the acoustics in Lake Michigan, which are these two bars here, they're quite a bit lower than the densities according to the acoustics in Lake Superior or in Lake Huron. But we are now beginning to see some lake herring or Cisco in Lake Michigan according to the acoustic survey, but they're at a relatively low density. Okay, now what Dave did in this graph was plot the acoustic estimate of biomass density against the bottom troll estimate of biomass density for alewife, bloater, and rainbow smelt. So on the left side, we see the acoustic estimate of biomass density, that big blue bar matched up against the bottom troll. So quite a bit of discrepancy. The acoustic estimate is about 10 times higher. The estimates for bloaters are quite a bit more similar across the two survey, and same with rainbow smelt. So this probably, part of the factors that can explain this big discrepancy is the bottom troll, the catchability of the younger ages are very low, and they don't fully recruit to the bottom troll until age 3. But you remember that the age distributions that we saw, most of the fish were age 1s and 2s, which aren't that vulnerable to the bottom troll survey. That partly explains the discrepancy. So if we move to summary and conclusions, according to the bottom troll, the total prey fish biomass in Lake Michigan in 2018 was 6.22 kilograms per hectare. That's on a biomass density basis, and that's the 8th lowest on record. So we're above where we were last year, but we're still at a relatively low level. And according to the acoustics, the 2018 total biomass density of prey fish is still lower than what was seen in the 1990s. Both surveys, bottom trawl and acoustics, showed an increase in alewife biomass between 2017 and 2018. According to the bottom trawl survey, the alewife biomass in 2018 was the 5th lowest on record. 2017 up until was the lowest on record, so we did see an increase in alewife biomass density. The age structure of the alewife population remains truncated. That just means that we are not seeing these older age groups that we saw prior to 2009. When I say older, I'm talking about fish that were age 7s and 8s that we would typically see. We don't see those anymore. And this suggests quite a bit of mortality on the alewives. According to the acoustics, the year class strength of the 2018 year class, that's the young ones that were produced in 2018, was just slightly below average, according to Dave. Both surveys show an increased production of young bloaters since 2005 compared to the 92 to 2004 period, but we still haven't seen a long-term sustained increase in adult bloater biomass in the lake, and we still don't know the reasons for that. Are they getting eaten up by predators? The diet data would not indicate that. Are they not as catchable as they used to be in the bottom trawl? Well, that's a possibility. We just don't know the answer for not seeing a long-term sustained increase. We'll see what the bottom trawl shows, or both surveys show in the near future. Rainbow smelt abundance in Lake Michigan remains low in 2018, but there has been a steady increase according to the bottom trawl survey since 2015. Slimy sculpin abundance in Lake Michigan remains low in 2018, but we think that's mainly attributable to predation by increasing abundances of juvenile lake trout. It's a favored prey of juvenile lake trout, and we think they're being suppressed by predation. Catch of deep water sculpins remains low in 2018, but we think some of that is just due to the population having moved to deeper waters beginning in 2007. Nine-spine stickleback abundance remains low, but that's probably due to increased predation. The round goby population we know is, at least the estimates of mortality that we have seen indicate that they're under some kind of predatory control, so we don't expect big increases in their abundance in the near future. And for the first year, we are now detecting cisco or lake herring in Grand Traverse Bay and in the Manistee area of the main basin of the lake, according to the acoustic survey. So to wrap it all up, the total prey fish biomass in Lake Michigan in 2018 is low, and one of the reasons for sure for this low biomass is from predation. There's just no way around it. One of the reasons for this total prey fish biomass in the lake being low in 2018 is from predation from the top predators like salmon and trout. Bottom-up effects, those are the effects coming up from the bottom of the food web that imply some sort of food limitation, are also contributing to that low prey fish biomass. The trick is to try to identify exactly how these prey fish are being limited in their food supply. It's easier said than done to try to identify exactly how the change is being brought about in the lake by the reduction in phosphorus and the quagga mussel effects are how that translates to effects on the preyfish. Not as easy as you think. And then finally, there are factors other than top-down and bottom-up effects that are leading to this observed low total preyfish biomass. And an example of that would be what we believe is going on with deep water scope, in that it looks like a good chunk of the population has just moved to water deeper than we normally sample with the bottom trawl survey. And that's all I have. Thanks a lot for your attention. I'll be glad to answer any more questions. Yeah.
So, when you look, as fishermen, we tend to pay very close attention to what's going on with the alewife, of course. Your graphs show the general trend that we're seeing the alewife slowly go away. And the last time I came to your seminar was about 2 years ago, and you had stated kind of the same stuff, 7, 8-year-old and 9-year-old alewives just kind of disappeared. Now, it looks like even 6-year-old alewives have disappeared. So we're seeing the degradation of the alewife population. So I remember hearing something, and I think it was like 1.5 years ago, that we had a record spawning class of alewives. Do you know anything about that? It was just something I heard.
Hold on a minute. Okay. Now, I don't have it on this graph. I thought I had it with me, but we do know that unfortunately there was no acoustic survey in the late 90s, but we do know something about year class strengths of alewives from the predator-prey model, because you know, if you're familiar with the predator-prey model or know something about it, that model will actually kick out an estimate of how many age 0 alewives are in the lake in October, okay? And according to that, the predator-prey model, the #1 year class of alewife in Lake Michigan, the top year class was produced in 1998. The second highest, #2, was 2010, I believe. So, and we think that the year classes in, there was Dave Warner thinks the 2012 was a semi-decent year class. And then it looks like the 2015 and 16 were higher than what we thought. But again, I don't think there's any question that 98 was the biggest one ever produced. And one of the reasons I say that is we could track that year class when we age the alewives. We would look and see, okay, in 99 there was a lot of age, there were age 1s. In 2000, there were quite a few age 2s. In 2001, the age 3s swamped out and you could track that year class, you know, 2002, 2003. We were even seeing that year class in 2006, you know, as 8-year-olds, and even, I think we even caught some 9-year-olds, well, anyway, in 2007. So we were tracking that year class for a while. It was the biggest one produced. What caused it to be that big? You know, maybe that really warm temperatures in the spring and summer might have contributed to that. You know, there might have been just happenstance that there were all the conditions were good to raise those young alewives that year. I also point out that 98 was after the reduction in. Remember that alewife condition time series that I showed you, where the big drop in condition or fatness of the alewife was in 95. So that means that even though condition was lower in 98, they were still able to produce the biggest year class ever produced in Lake Michigan. So they're still, and I still think that they're capable of producing big year classes. It's just that there's a lot of predation going on.
So, on your slides that are showing a lot of 1- and 2-year-old alewives, and we're seeing very few 3-year-olds, and you mentioned 3-year-olds are where they're spawning.
At age 3 in the spring, in the spring and summer. So when
we may have hope that the alewife may have a good spawning class with the 1 and 2-year-olds that are coming up.
Yeah, the age 2s that I showed on the age graph, they would be coming in, almost all of those would be mature this coming June. So they should be spawning almost 100%, I would say close to 100%. Remember, their peak spawning is usually early July. But it's a protracted spawning period. They can start spawning in June, and I think there's even some spawning in early August, so.